In an old manor at the edge of a quiet village, strange things happened at midnight. The lord and lady who lived there were rich and proud. They had many servants who cleaned and cooked and kept the big house running. But one servant was different from all the rest. Her name was Elira, and she never spoke much to anyone. Elira was an orphan. She had no mother or father. No family at all. The other servants whispered about her behind her back. Some laughed at how quiet she was. Others felt sorry for her sad eyes. But Elira just kept working, day after day, saying nothing. The manor had many rooms and long dark hallways. There were paintings on the walls and fancy carpets on the floors. At night, when everyone went to sleep, the house became very quiet. Only the wind made sounds outside the windows. But every midnight, something strange happened. Elira would wake up from her small bed in the servants' room. She would put on her shoes and walk through the dark halls. No one knew where she went. No one cared enough to ask. She was just the quiet maid who kept to herself. Until one night, everything changed. If you're watching this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my folktale story from. I want to know how far it has traveled. Lord Varon sat in his study late one Tuesday night. He could not sleep. His mind was full of worries about money and business. He decided to check the new security cameras he had just installed around the manor. The cameras were supposed to keep thieves away. He turned on his computer and looked at the footage from earlier that day. Everything looked normal. Servants walking. Gardens empty. Gates closed. Then he clicked on the midnight recording from last night. The screen showed the old courtyard behind the manor. Moonlight poured down like silver water. And there, in the middle of the empty space, was a girl. She was dancing. Lord Varon leaned closer to the screen. The girl moved like water flowing over stones. Her arms lifted and fell. Her feet barely touched the ground. She spun slowly, and her face was turned up toward the moon. Her eyes were closed, and tears ran down her cheeks. Who is this girl? Lord Varon whispered to himself. And why is she crying? He watched the footage 3 more times. Each time, he felt something strange in his chest. The dance was not happy. It was full of pain. Full of longing. It made him feel sad without knowing why. The next morning, Lord Varon called his head servant, an old man named Gareth. Gareth had worked at the manor for 30 years. He knew everything and everyone. Gareth, said Lord Varon, who is the girl who dances in the courtyard at midnight? Gareth looked confused for a moment. Then his eyes grew wide. Oh, my lord. That must be Elira. The quiet one. She is the maid who cleans the east wing. Why does she dance alone at night? Lord Varon asked. Gareth shook his head slowly. I do not know, my lord. She is a strange girl. An orphan. She speaks to no one. The other servants say she is touched by sadness. But she works hard and causes no trouble. Lord Varon nodded slowly. He could not stop thinking about the dance. About the tears on her face. About the way her body moved like it was telling a story without words. That night, he checked the cameras again. And there she was. Dancing once more. Same courtyard. Same moonlight. Same silent tears. Lord Varon felt his heart grow heavy as he watched. Something is wrong here, he said to the empty room. Elira had always been alone. She did not remember her mother or father. She grew up in a church orphanage in the village. The nuns were kind but busy. There were many children and not enough food or love to go around. When Elira turned 15, the nuns found her a job at the manor. You will work hard, they told her. Be grateful. Do not complain. So Elira came to the manor and worked. She cleaned floors and washed dishes. She polished silver and made beds. She never asked for anything. She never spoke unless someone spoke to her first. But every midnight, something called to her. A feeling inside her chest. Like a hand pulling her toward the courtyard. She did not understand it. She only knew she had to dance. When she danced, the sadness inside her came out. It flowed through her arms and legs. It lifted her up and made her feel light. For those few minutes, she was not a servant. She was not an orphan. She was something else. Something free. She did not know anyone was watching. She thought she was alone with the moon and the stars and her secret sorrow. But the cameras saw everything. The other servants began to notice. A girl named Marta, who worked in the kitchen, was jealous of Elira. Marta was loud and liked attention. She hated how quiet Elira was. She hated how the Lord had asked about her. One afternoon, Marta whispered to another servant. "Have you seen Elira at night? She sneaks away when everyone is sleeping. I followed her once. She goes to the old courtyard." "What does she do there?" the other servant asked. "I do not know," Marta lied. "But it is strange. Maybe she meets someone. Maybe she is doing something she should not." The gossip spread like fire through dry grass. Soon everyone was whispering about Elira. Some said she was cursed. Others said she talked to ghosts. A few believed she was a witch. Marta made sure the gossip reached Lady Varen's ears. Lady Varen was a proud woman. She had once been a famous dancer in the city. But now she was older, and her body did not move like it used to. She spent her days giving orders and her nights feeling bitter. When she heard about Elira dancing at midnight, something dark stirred inside her. That evening, Lady Varen sat in her room and looked at herself in the mirror. Her face was still beautiful, but there were lines around her eyes. Her hands were not as graceful as they once were. She remembered when people used to cheer for her. When men wrote poems about her dancing. When she felt like a queen on the stage. Now she was just the wife of a lord. Respected but not loved. Feared but not admired. She called for Gareth. "Bring me the footage," she said. "I want to see this girl dance." Gareth brought the computer and played the recording. Lady Varen watched in silence. Her face did not move. But inside, her heart burned with something ugly. Jealousy. Anger. Fear. The girl danced with a power Lady Varen had never seen before. It was not just skill. It was something deeper. Something real. The dance carried weight. It carried truth. Lady Varen's hands clenched into fists. "Who is she?" she asked coldly. "Just a maid, my lady. An orphan. Her name is Elira." Lady Varen smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "She dances like she is possessed," she whispered. "Let us see what else the cameras capture tonight." That same night, something else happened. A cloaked figure appeared at the manor's front gate. It was an old woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to see through walls. She knocked 3 times on the heavy wooden door. A guard opened it. "What do you want, old woman?" "It is late. I have come to see the girl who mourns," the old woman said. Her voice was soft but strong. "What girl?" "We have many servants here." "The one who dances with ghosts," the old woman replied. "I have traveled far to find her. Please tell her I am here." The guard was confused. But something about the old woman made him afraid to say no. He went inside and told Gareth about the strange visitor. Gareth did not know what to do. He went to Elira's room and knocked on her door. "There is someone at the gate asking for you," he said. Elira looked surprised. No one ever asked for her. "Who is it?" "An old woman. A stranger." She says she has come to see you. Elira felt her heart beat faster. She followed Gareth down the stairs and out to the gate. The old woman smiled when she saw her. I knew I would find you, the old woman whispered. The old woman's name was Sable. She was a seer, someone who could see things others could not. She had traveled from a distant village because of a vision she had in her dreams. You dance what has been buried, Sable told Elira. They sat together in the garden, away from listening ears. Your body remembers what your mind has forgotten. Elira shook her head. I do not understand. I just dance because I feel sad. That is all. Sable reached into her cloak and pulled out something small. It was a torn ribbon, faded and dirty. Do you know what this is? Elira stared at it. Something inside her chest tightened. She did not know why, but tears filled her eyes. No, she whispered. This belonged to your mother, Sable said gently. I found it near the old well behind this manor. Your mother lived here once. Before you were born. Before she disappeared. My mother? Elira's voice broke. I never knew my mother. That is because they wanted you to forget, Sable said. But the truth cannot stay buried forever. It rises like water from deep underground. And you, child, are the one bringing it to the surface. Elira felt dizzy. Nothing made sense. That night, Elira could not sleep. She lay in her small bed and stared at the ceiling. The torn ribbon was under her pillow. She kept touching it, feeling the soft fabric between her fingers. Who was her mother? Why did she live at the manor? What happened to her? Questions spun in her mind like leaves in the wind. Finally, she got up and walked to the courtyard. The moon was full and bright. She began to dance, but tonight felt different. As she moved, images flashed in her mind. A woman with long dark hair. A fire burning. Screaming voices. Smoke filling the air. Elira gasped and stumbled. Her hands were shaking. She looked down and saw something strange. There were ashes on her palms. Gray and soft, like the remains of burned paper. But there was no fire. No smoke. Nothing burning. What is happening to me? She whispered into the night. From the shadows near the manor wall, someone was watching. A guard stood with his arms crossed, staring at Elira. He had seen the ashes appear. He had seen the way she stumbled as if pushed by invisible hands. He turned and ran back inside to report what he had seen. The next morning, the servants gathered in the kitchen. Everyone was talking about Elira. The guard had told them what he saw. Ashes appearing from nowhere. The girl crying out as if in pain. Some said she was cursed. Others said she was dangerous. Marta stood in the corner, smiling to herself. I told you, she said loudly. That girl is not normal. She brings darkness with her. Lord Varen heard the gossip. He was troubled. He did not believe in curses or ghosts. But something strange was happening, and he could not explain it. Lady Varen, however, was delighted. Perfect, she whispered to herself. Fear makes people easy to control. She called for a meeting with all the servants. When everyone was gathered in the great hall, Lady Varen stood on the stairs and spoke in a loud voice. I have heard the rumors, she said. About the girl who dances at midnight. About the strange things that follow her. I have decided to test her. Everyone fell silent. Elira stood at the back of the crowd, trembling. In 2 weeks, we will hold our annual gathering, Lady Varen continued. Nobles from all around will come. And this girl, Elira, will dance for them. Let us see if her magic is real. Elira felt her blood turn cold. Dance in front of nobles. In front of strangers. She danced alone because it was private. Because it was hers. Not for show. not for others to judge. After the meeting, she ran to find Sable. The old woman was staying in a small room near the stables. Elira burst through the door, her face pale. "She wants me to dance in front of everyone," Elira said, her voice shaking. "I cannot do it. I will not." Sable looked at her with calm eyes. "Then you will be sent away. Cast out. You will have nothing." "I already have nothing," Elira whispered. "No," Sable said firmly. "You have the truth. And the truth wants to be seen. Your mother's story is tied to this place. If you run now, it stays buried forever." Elira sank to the floor and buried her face in her hands. "I do not want this. I just want to be left alone." Sable knelt beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You are not alone, child. Your mother walks beside you. She has been waiting for someone to remember her. To speak her name again. That someone is you." Elira looked up, tears streaming down her face. "What was her name?" Sable smiled sadly. "Ivina." The name hung in the air like a bell that had just been rung. "Ivina." Elira whispered it over and over. "Ivina. Ivina." Each time she said it, something stirred inside her. A memory that was not quite a memory. A feeling of warmth and safety. Sable told her more. "Your mother was not just a servant. She was connected to this family. But something terrible happened. A fire. Accusations. Lies told in darkness. And then she was gone." "Gone where?" Elira asked. "That is what we must find out," Sable said. "The manor holds secrets in its stones. In its walls. In the ground beneath it. Your dancing is waking those secrets up." Over the next few days, Elira tried to learn more. She asked the older servants carefully. But most of them said nothing. Their faces went pale when she mentioned the name Ivina. They looked away and changed the subject. Only the old gardener, a man named Thomas, was willing to speak. He was nearly 70 and had worked at the manor since he was a boy. "I remember Ivina," he said quietly. "Beautiful girl. Kind heart. But the family did not want her here. There was trouble. Bad trouble." "What kind of trouble?" Elira pressed. Thomas looked around nervously. "The kind that ends in fire and graves." The days passed quickly. The annual gathering was coming closer. Lady Varen ordered servants to prepare the courtyard. They hung lanterns from the trees. They set up tables and chairs. They brought in musicians and cooks. Elira watched it all with growing dread. She could not eat. She could not sleep well. Every night she still went to the courtyard to dance, but now she felt eyes watching her from every window. One evening, Lady Varen called Elira to her private room. When Elira entered, she saw a dress laid out on the bed. It was old but beautiful. White silk with silver thread. The kind of dress a lady would wear, not a servant. "This is what you will wear when you dance," Lady Varen said coldly. Elira stared at the dress. Something about it made her skin crawl. Whose dress was this? Lady Varen's smile was sharp as a knife. "Does it matter? You will wear it. You will dance. And you will give these nobles something to talk about." Elira wanted to refuse. But she remembered Sable's words. The truth wants to be seen. If she ran now, her mother's story would stay buried forever. "I will dance," Elira said quietly. "But not for you." Lady Varen's eyes flashed with anger. "You will dance because I command it. Remember your place, girl." The night of the gathering arrived. Carriages came up the long road to the manor. Nobles stepped out wearing fine clothes and jewels. They laughed and talked loudly. Servants rushed around with trays of food and drink. Elira stood in a corner of the courtyard, wearing the white dress. It fit her perfectly, as if it had been made for her. But it felt heavy. Like it carried weight from the past. Sable found her and squeezed her hand. "Remember," the old woman whispered. "Dance the truth. Let your body speak what words cannot." The musicians began to play. Lord Varen stood and raised his glass. "Tonight, we have a special performance. Our servant, Elira, will dance for us." The nobles clapped politely. Some whispered to each other. They had heard the rumors about the strange girl who danced at midnight. They were curious. Elira stepped into the center of the courtyard. The lanterns glowed around her like small suns. The moon hung overhead, full and bright. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then the music started, and she began to move. At first, it was just a dance. But then something changed. The air grew heavy. The wind stopped blowing. Time seemed to slow down. Elira danced, but it was not her alone. Her movements became more powerful. More ancient. She spun and her arms lifted as if pulled by invisible strings. Tears ran down her face, but she did not stop. The nobles stopped talking. They stared. Some felt their hearts grow heavy. Others felt afraid without knowing why. Then the lanterns began to flicker. One by one, they dimmed and brightened again. The fountain in the courtyard, which had not worked in years, suddenly began to flow. Water bubbled up from its center. A woman in the crowd gasped. "Do you see that?" she whispered to her husband. "See what?" he asked. "Behind her. There is someone behind her." Others began to see it too. A shimmer in the air. A shape that looked almost like a woman in white. It moved when Elira moved. It danced with her. Lord Varen stood up from his chair. His face was pale. He could see it too. The ghostly outline of a woman with long dark hair. A woman who looked almost exactly like Elira. Lady Varen's hands gripped the arms of her chair. Her face was frozen in shock and rage. Then Elira stopped dancing. She stood perfectly still. And a voice came from nowhere and everywhere at once. A woman's voice, soft but clear. "She remembers." Chaos broke out. Some nobles screamed. Others jumped from their seats. A few ran toward their carriages. The servants stood frozen, not knowing what to do. The fountain suddenly cracked down the middle with a sound like thunder. Water spilled out onto the stones. The ghostly shape behind Elira grew brighter for a moment, and then it vanished. Elira collapsed to the ground. Sable ran to her and held her in her arms. "You did well, child," she whispered. "You did well." Lord Varen rushed forward. "What is happening here?" he shouted. But no one had answers. Only fear. One of the nobles, an old man with a red face, had drunk too much wine. He stood up and pointed at Lady Varen. "Didn't her mother die here?" he said loudly. "Years ago. There was a fire or something. I remember the rumors." "Shut your mouth," Lady Varen hissed. But it was too late. The words had been spoken. The question had been asked. Another noble whispered, "Whose mother?" "The girl's." "No," someone else said. "He means Lady Varen's mother. Or was it her sister? I cannot remember." Elira slowly stood up. Her eyes locked with Lady Varen's. And in that moment, something passed between them. A knowing. A recognition. A truth that could no longer hide. That night, after the nobles had left in confusion and fear, Lady Varen gave an order. "Lock that girl in her room. Do not let her out. Do not let anyone speak to her." 2 guards took Elira by the arms and led her away. She did not fight. She was too exhausted. Her body felt like it was made of stone. They pushed her into her small room and locked the door from the outside. Elira lay on her bed and stared at the ceiling. Her mind was full of images. The ghostly woman. The cracking fountain. The voice that said, "She remembers." What did she remember? She did not know. But something inside her had changed. She felt stronger. Less afraid. As if the dance had opened a door inside her heart. Outside her door, she heard voices arguing. It was Sable and Gareth. "You cannot keep her locked up like a prisoner," Sable said angrily. "Lady Varen's orders," Gareth replied. "I have no choice." "There is always a choice," Sable said. "And you will have to make one soon. The truth is coming whether you like it or not." Elira pressed her ear to the door. She heard footsteps walking away. Then silence. She closed her eyes and whispered her mother's name. "Ivina. Help me understand." By morning, whispers had spread through the entire manor. The servants were afraid but also curious. Some refused to obey Lady Varen's orders. They gathered in small groups and talked quietly. "Did you see what happened last night?" one servant asked. "The fountain broke. And there was a ghost," another said. "That was no ghost," said Thomas, the old gardener. "That was Lady Ivina. I knew her. I would know her anywhere." Everyone turned to look at him. "Lady Ivina?" Marta asked. "Who is that?" Thomas took a deep breath. She was Lady Varen's younger sister. Many years ago, before most of you came here, Ivina lived in this manor. She was kind and beautiful. Everyone loved her. But Lady Varen was jealous. Even then. "What happened to her?" someone asked. Thomas looked down at his hands. There was a fire. In the east wing. Ivina died. At least, that is what we were told. But I never believed it. I think she was murdered. And I think they buried the truth with her body. The servants gasped. Marta's face went pale. "And the girl? Elira?" Thomas nodded slowly. "She is Ivina's daughter. I am sure of it now. She has her mother's eyes. Her mother's spirit." Word spread quickly. By noon, even the guards knew the story. Some of them felt ashamed for locking Elira away. One young guard, a kind man named Peter, went to Gareth. "Sir," Peter said. "I do not think we should keep the girl locked up. If what Thomas says is true, then she is not a servant. She is family. She is the heir." Gareth rubbed his tired eyes. "I know. But Lady Varen will have my head if I disobey her." "Then let it be on my head," Peter said. He took the key from Gareth's desk and went to Elira's room. He unlocked the door. Elira looked up in surprise. "You are letting me go?" "Yes," Peter said. "Thomas told us about your mother. About who you really are. This is not right. None of this is right." Elira stepped out into the hallway. Her legs were shaky, but her heart was strong. Sable was waiting for her at the end of the hall. "Come," the old woman said. "There is something you must see." They walked together through the manor, past servants who stared and whispered. They went outside to the gardens and then beyond, to a part of the grounds Elira had never been to before. An old well stood there, covered in vines and moss. Thomas was waiting by the well. In his hands, he held a rusty metal box. "I found this years ago," he said. "After the fire. I hid it because I was afraid. But it belongs to you now." He handed the box to Elira. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a silver locket and several burned pieces of paper. She carefully unfolded one of the papers. The handwriting was elegant but faded. It was a diary entry. And it began with the words, "My name is Ivina, and I am writing this because I fear I will not live to tell my story." Elira's eyes filled with tears. She read slowly, carefully. The diary told of a young woman who fell in love. Of a secret pregnancy. Of a sister who grew jealous and angry. Of threats and lies. The final entry was the most painful. "She has locked me in the east wing. She says if I do not give up my child, she will make sure I never leave this place. But I will not abandon my baby. I will not. If you are reading this, my daughter, know that I loved you. I died protecting you." Elira looked up at Thomas and Sable. "She died because of me." "No," Sable said firmly. "She died because of lies and jealousy. Because your aunt wanted to erase her." "My aunt?" Elira whispered. "Lady Varen is my aunt." The truth fell on Elira like a heavy stone. Lady Varen was her mother's sister. Her own flesh and blood. And she had killed Ivina to keep a secret buried. "What secret?" Elira asked. Thomas spoke quietly. "Your father was Lord Varen. Before he married Lady Varen, he loved Ivina. But the family did not approve. They wanted him to marry the older sister for political reasons. So he did. But he never stopped loving Ivina. When Ivina became pregnant with you," Sable continued, "Lady Varen found out. She was furious. She saw it as the ultimate betrayal. So she set the fire. She killed her own sister. And she made sure everyone believed it was an accident." Elira felt dizzy. Everything she thought she knew was a lie. She was not just a servant. She was the daughter of a lord. The rightful heir. "Where did I go after my mother died?" she asked. "The nuns took you," Thomas said. "Lord Varen never knew you existed. Lady Varen made sure of that. She told him the baby died in the fire too. He believed her. He has lived with that guilt ever since." Elira walked back to the manor with Sable and Thomas beside her. Servants saw them coming and gathered to watch. Word had spread about the diary. About the truth. Everyone knew now. Lady Varen stood on the front steps, her face twisted with rage. "You dare come back? I told them to lock you away." "You can lock doors," Elira said calmly. "But you cannot lock the truth." Lord Varen appeared behind his wife. He looked confused and tired. "What is all this noise about?" Elira looked at him. Her father. A man who did not know she was his daughter. She held up the diary. "This belonged to Ivina. Your Ivina. The woman you loved." Lord Varen's face went pale. "How do you know that name?" "Because she was my mother," Elira said. Her voice was steady and strong. "And you are my father." The crowd gasped. Lady Varen laughed, but it sounded fake and hollow. "Lies. All lies. The girl is mad." "Then explain this," Sable said. She held up the locket from the box. Inside was a small painting. A portrait of a young woman who looked exactly like Elira. And next to it, a lock of baby hair. Lord Varen took the locket with shaking hands. Tears filled his eyes. "Ivina," he whispered. "My Ivina. They told me you died. They told me the baby died too." "She lied to you," Elira said, pointing at Lady Varen. "She killed my mother. She set the fire. And then she hid me away so you would never know the truth." Lady Varen's face turned red. "You cannot prove anything. It was an accident. Everyone knows it was an accident." But Thomas stepped forward. "I saw you that night, my lady. I was working in the gardens. I saw you go into the east wing with a lamp. I saw you come out before the fire started. I said nothing because I was afraid. But I will say it now. You murdered your own sister. The servants began to shout. Some cried. Others demanded justice. The guards did not know what to do. Lord Varen stared at his wife as if seeing her for the first time. Tell me it is not true, he said quietly. Tell me you did not do this. Lady Varen opened her mouth, but no words came out. For the first time in her life, she had nothing to say. Her lies had finally caught up to her. At that moment, the ground beneath the courtyard began to shake. Small at first, then stronger. The broken fountain glowed with a strange blue light. And the ghostly figure of Ivina appeared once more, clearer than before. Everyone fell silent. The ghost of Ivina stood in the center of the courtyard. She looked at Elira with love in her eyes. Then she turned to Lady Varen, and her expression changed to something cold and final. Ivina raised her hand, and Lady Varen screamed. But no sound came from her mouth. Her voice was gone. Taken. She clutched at her throat, trying to speak, but only silence came out. Let her live, Ivina's voice echoed through the courtyard. But let her live in the silence she forced upon my daughter. Let her know what it is to be voiceless. To be forgotten. The ghostly figure turned to Lord Varen. Protect our daughter. Love her as I could not. Raise her as the heir she was meant to be. Lord Varen fell to his knees, sobbing. I am so sorry. I am so sorry, Ivina. I should have protected you. You did not know, Ivina said gently. But now you do. Make it right. Then she looked at Elira one last time. Dance, my child. Dance not from sorrow, but from joy. You are free now. We both are. The ghostly figure smiled, and then slowly faded into the moonlight. The ground stopped shaking. The blue light dimmed. And peace settled over the manor like a soft blanket. In the days that followed, everything changed. Lady Varen was sent away to a distant house where she would live alone, unable to speak, unable to hurt anyone else. Some said it was mercy. Others said it was justice. Lord Varen welcomed Elira as his daughter. He gave her rooms in the manor. He dressed her in fine clothes. But more than that, he listened to her. He asked about her life. He wept for the years they had lost. The servants who had been cruel to Elira apologized. Some she forgave. Others she simply nodded at and walked past. Marta left the manor in shame. Peter the guard was promoted for his kindness. Thomas continued to tend the gardens, but now he smiled more. Sable stayed for a few weeks, then prepared to leave. My work here is done, she told Elira. Thank you, Elira said, hugging the old woman. Thank you for helping me find the truth. The truth was always in you, Sable replied. I just helped you see it. News of what happened spread beyond the village. People came from far away to see the manor where a ghost had appeared. Where a murdered woman's daughter had returned to claim her birthright. The story was told and retold, changing slightly each time. But those who were there remembered the truth. Months passed. The manor felt different now. Lighter. As if a weight had been lifted from its stones. The courtyard was repaired. The fountain was rebuilt, and water flowed clear and bright. And sometimes, on nights when the moon was full, Elira would go to the courtyard and dance. But not alone. The servants would gather to watch. Her father would sit on the steps and smile with tears in his eyes. Her dances were no longer filled with sorrow. They were filled with memory. With gratitude. With hope. She danced for her mother. For the truth. For the second chance at life she had been given. One night, as she finished dancing, a young girl from the village asked, "Why do you still dance at midnight?" Elira smiled. Because my mother taught me, even though I never met her. She taught me that the soul speaks through movement. That grief can become grace. And that the truth, no matter how long it is buried, will always find a way to rise. The girl nodded, not fully understanding but feeling the weight of the words anyway. And in the shadows of the courtyard, if you looked closely, you might see a shimmer. A gentle presence. A mother watching her daughter dance, finally at peace. Some say it was a girl. Some say it was a ghost. Others say it was simply truth, dancing in the moonlight. The story you have just heard is a beautiful African tale I heard long ago. I am telling you to wake your minds to the power of truth and the courage it takes to face what has been buried. Secrets and lies may hide for a time, but they always come to light. And when they do, it is how we respond that defines us. If you were Elira, would you have forgiven those who hurt you? Would you have been merciful to Lady Varen, or would you have demanded harsher justice? I want to know your opinion because every story is like a candle that can light the path for someone else. Remember, the truth may be painful, but silence is more painful still. Speak for those who cannot speak. Dance for those who cannot dance. And never let fear bury what deserves to be known. God bless you, and may courage guide your hands. Meanwhile, on the final screen, I am leaving you with one of the channel's most beloved folktales. I am sure you will love it. Thank you for staying with me until this moment.